This is Plant-Based Briefing. Doctors Group praises American Heart Association's statement, "Not all ultra-processed foods are poor nutritional quality," from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine at PCRM.org. I'm Marian Erickson. This is the Plant-Based Podcast, where I curate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living, get permission, and narrate them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And I'm pleased to have permission from Physicians Committee to share their content. They're a great nonprofit organization with more than 17,000 physicians. They educate the public on nutrition. They educate doctors on how to treat chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and cancer. They fight tirelessly for alternatives to the use of animals in medical research and education. And today's article ties into yesterday's. You might want to listen to that if you haven't already. And it's another press release issued by Physicians Committee to educate people and help change the narrative and get to the truth about nutrition science. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Doctors Group praises American Heart Association's statement, "Not all ultra-processed foods are poor nutritional quality," from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine at PCRM.org. The American Heart Association released a report linked here, pointing out that while most ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, common in U.S. dietary patterns, are unhealthful, not all UPFs are of poor nutritional quality. The Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, a public health advocacy nonprofit, supports this more nuanced approach to UPFs and agrees with the report's recommendation for research to refine dietary guidance to discourage excessive consumption of nutrient-poor UPFs. We're pleased to see the AHA point out that there are healthful and unhealthful UPFs, says Noah Promsma, MS, RDN, Nutrition Education Coordinator at the Physicians Committee. There are actually many healthful UPFs that reduce risk of disease, linked here, and tend to have one thing in common. They're derived from plants. Breakfast cereals, plant-based milks like soy and oat milk, many breads, pasta, canned fruits and vegetables, and plant-based meat substitutes can belong in a healthy diet, especially if they replace animal products. A recent BMC study linked here showed moderate consumption of muesli and bran cereal correlated with reduced mortality risks related to cardiovascular disease and cancer. In plant products like cereals, processing is sometimes done specifically for health reasons, the addition of vitamins and minerals. Folate fortification, for example, is considered one of the great public health wins of the last few decades. Breakfast cereals and plant-based milks are excellent sources of vitamin D and other nutrients and relied on by many Americans. The term ultra-processed food is a shortcut term that misses a lot of nuance. Most importantly, it distracts the public from the problems of meat and dairy products, Promsma adds. Choosing a veggie burger instead of a beef burger is a healthful choice. The AHA's report and recommendations could not come soon enough. A recent national survey conducted by Morning Consult found that 39% of respondents to an online poll incorrectly said all processed foods are unhealthy. This new research, linked here, was published July 8, 2025 in JAMA Network Open. When asked which foods increase type 2 diabetes risk, 51% cited sugar, 19% said desserts, and 7% said carbohydrates in general, all inaccurately. Studies show it is processed meat consumption that is associated with diabetes and cardiovascular disease, not plant-based ultra-processed foods, which are associated with reduced risk of these conditions. A Harvard University study linked here showed that frequent processed meat consumption was associated with a 44% increased risk of diabetes, while consumption of ultra-processed cereals had the opposite effect, a 22% reduction in diabetes risk. It's important that health organizations make their guidance very clear to consumers. Only a third of Americans report regularly reading food labels, so telling people to avoid UPFs high in saturated fat, sugar, sodium, and calories may not be realistic guidance, says Promsma. A more helpful approach would be to clearly name the culprits: processed meat and sandwiches, frozen meals, and other foods that contain them. You just listened to Doctors Group praises American Heart Association statement, "Not all ultra-processed foods are poor nutritional quality," from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine at PCRM.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, your host. I've done a number of other episodes about processed foods. You can use the search field wherever you listen, or I'll link some in the show notes as well. Episode 1076, The Tofu Era is Upon Us, How This Ancient Protein is Redefining Clean Eating. 1020, Dairy, the Ultra-Processed Food Hiding in Plain Sight. 1018 and 19, Is the NOVA score accurate about processed vegan protein? 851, Headlines Matter, Top Takeaways from a recent ultra-processed food study are wrong and irresponsible. 565, Cut the Calorie-Rich and Processed Foods, or CRAP. 502, Meat and Milk Linked to Colon Cancer, Study Confirms. 351, Processed is a useless, empty descriptor of food. Those are just a few of them that I have out there, so feel free to check those out, and please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.